So today I'm going to show you what the meaning of prop drilling in React. Okay. So what the meaning of prop drilling? Okay. Now you just see that I have a component. Okay. I have an app component. App component. Okay. This is my app component, and I have another component, component A. Okay. Component A. Okay. Now you see that component A and component B also. I have another component B. Okay. And I have another component C. Okay. Now you just see that I have three components is there. So now I just send some data from now you see that I just send some data from app component to child component. Okay, this component to this component to this component. Okay, so how I transfer data from app component to child component. Okay, so there's some concept is there. You just ask me, you just say that how to send the data. So we can send the data from app component to child component by using props. Okay, so props means first I transfer the data from app A to app to A, so like that. So then first I transport the I'm not directly transport the data from app component to child C component. First I just it's not possible. Okay, first I just transport the data from app component to A component. Okay, then A component to B component. Okay, then B component to C component. So like that. So means like that. Okay, so I can just do like that also. That is the meaning of prop drilling. Okay, so first I transfer the data app component to A component, and A component to B component, and B component to C component. Okay, so finally in the C component I successfully receive the data. Okay, so in practically I just show you in my VS code. Okay, here I create a new component. Okay, here I create a new component learn. Here I create a component. Okay, already I have the app component. Here I create a component A. Okay, component com component 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 A dot jsx, then jsx. I just rename it. Okay, component A dot jsx. Okay, then I create another component. You see that component component B dot jsx. Okay, and I create another component C dot jsx. Okay, component C dot jsx. Okay, so inside my A component, here I just mention that I just create a function based component. Here rfce, there's some shortcut is there provided by the ES7 React Redux. Okay, now what can I do here? I create a empty fragment. Okay, inside the empty fragment, here I say that this is component A. Okay, means h1, I just create h1 and this is a component A. Okay, and here I just mention the component, here I call the component B. Okay, component B. Okay, component B. Okay, inside the A component I just call the component B. Okay, so then you import the component B also here, and you component B, you import the component B also. Okay, I think you understand when I explain the diagram. In the diagram, in that time you understand, I think, what can I do right now. This one is the component A. Okay, so inside the component B, now you go to the component B. Now component B, inside the component B, here just do one thing, create a RFCE React function based component, and here what can I do, here component B, component B, here RFC component B, here I create a empty fragment. Okay, here I create a empty fragment. Inside the empty fragment, here I create a, here I write that h2 or h1. I think I can write h1, and this one is a component B. Okay, and here I just call the, here I call the component C. Okay, there's some component C is there, component C. Now you see that here this one the capital C. Okay, and I import the component C also here. Okay, import component C from dot component C. Okay, so now you see that when I send some data, and inside the app.jsx, you just see that I just comment out my previous code. I just comment out the learn use memo, don't want right now. So here I just import the component A. Okay, import component A from component A, and components, these components, inside the components I have a component, and I import the component A. Okay, inside my component A I have component A. Okay, and you just see that inside the component A I successfully export this thing also, and every time you just see that in every component I export this thing also. Okay, and the same thing I can do in the component C also. Here I write RFCE. Okay, React function based component, and same thing I create a empty fragment here. Here I create a empty fragment, and inside the empty fragment, here I just do something. Okay, 2 times I write this thing. Yeah, I create a empty fragment, and inside the empty fragment, here I write a component C. Okay, and successfully export this component C also, and I already mentioned inside the component B C. Okay, so what I do right now, I send some data, send some stock data. Okay, inside the component A, inside the app.jsx, here I just call the component A. Okay, and I already import the component A also here. Okay, now you just see that here I send some data like Tesla Tesla I send the Tesla data. Okay, so my stock name is Tesla. Okay, I send the stock name. Okay, stock is Tesla. Okay, so how I receive the Tesla, uh, how I receive the this data, stock data inside my C component. Okay, how I receive this component. So in every here I go to the app.jsx, and here I pass the stock. This is the stock, uh, stock equal to stock, like that. Okay, so stock. Okay, this stock means this stock means this stock. Okay, so now through props I receive the data inside the A component. Okay, here I just write some props. Okay, you know that how to use props means we send some data from parent component to child component. Okay, now you see that this one is the props, and here I say that inside my component B, stock equal to props dot stocks. Okay, props dot stocks. So here I can get the data in the component A. Okay, inside the component A, here here I just show you I get the data or not. Now you see that I get the data, stock data inside the A component. Okay, and I just pass the this props.stock to the B component also. Okay, first I receive the data and pass the data to B component. Okay, I just start my local development server. Okay, cd my and ls npm run dev. Okay, now you see that my local development server is started. I get some error. Yeah, props.stock is there. Okay, and the error say that you have some component dot slash component B. Yeah, okay, this does not exist. Okay, component B, component okay, indent st component, the spelling this component I just rename the component inside the B, just rename component the JSX. Okay, now I see it's yeah, the problem is solved. Okay, now you just see that I successfully received the data in the component A, but I want my goal is I receive the data in the component C. Okay, so I receive the data in component A and pass the data to the B component. Okay, inside the A component I receive the data and pass the data to B component. Okay, in the same thing happen when I go to the B component. Here I write props, and here also I do I receive the data again and I send the data to the component C, and the same thing I do here. Now you just see that in the component B also I have data. Okay, so where I get the data from B parent component. Okay, B parent, which is the B parent component A. Okay, in the same thing when I go to the C component, here I write props. Okay, not this is not a class based component. Okay, props, and here I write props, and I just here finally I get the data from in the C component. I don't want to pass somewhere. So finally I get the data from the finally I get the data in the C component. Okay, so inside the A component, but the main thing is why all these components are involved means and they don't want, means A don't want the component, means A don't want the prop dot data, means this data is not required in the component A, and B also not require this data. Okay, but C require this data. Okay, C require this data, but why all these components are involved? I don't want to involve all these component. So how, what can I do? So without using all this without involving all these component, we can send the data from parent component to child component, nth child component. Okay, this one is the parent component to nth child component. Okay, so how it's possible? There are some there a context API is there, context API is there. Okay, so you just successfully remove this thing. Okay, I don't want the props inside the in the props. I don't want this one. I don't want. You successfully remove everything. Okay, then we can discuss about the what is the meaning of context API. So how context API help you for solving this problem? Okay, just remove this thing, and this one also. I don't want to involve. I don't involve this thing. Okay, and inside the C also I remove the props, and here I remove this one also. Okay, now I think now it's visible. Okay, component A, component B, and component C is there. Okay, component C I don't have any props and I don't have any data. Inside the B I don't have props, nothing is there. A, nothing is there. Okay, so the context APIs help you for sending the data without involving the the intermediate component like A B component. Okay, directly we send the data from parent component to component C. So how it's possible? So inside the after, so we need something like we need some provider, we have some consumer. When we create some first we create a component. First we create a component, and then we can create a provider. Okay, create context is there. Okay, so how it's possible? Then just go to the app.jsx. Okay, here I do something. I create a const. Here I send some stock data. Okay, stock stock const, I have a space, then stock, yeah, stock context. Okay, stock stock context text. Okay, stock context react dot create context. Okay, react I can directly use create context. Okay, here I just first I create a context. Okay, now you see that I don't want a react, so create context T. Okay, and you just see that I import the create context from React. Okay, create context from React. Okay, now you just see that here I create context. Okay, so after I creating this context, what can I do? Here I create a provider. Okay, so how you create a provider? So then you export this thing also. Okay, just copy it, just export this thing where you here you export this thing, export default app app and you create a flare bracket, because I want to export two things. Okay, command Z. Now I want to export the sorry, yeah, now I export two things, app and stock context. Okay, now you see that I export the stock context also, and you can export separately also. Command Z. Now you can do one thing, just leave it app. This one is the app component, and just this one is the app, normal app. Okay, this one is the normal app. I just export this app, and here I create a export again. I here I create a stock context. Okay, here I separately export this thing. Okay, in future if I create another any stock context, any type of data, so we can add here also. Okay, in future. Okay, so I think you don't understand. Okay, you can understand in future. Okay, so now you just see that here I just export the stock context. Okay, here I export the stock context, and here I create a provider. There's some context, and there's some thing is there, like I create a provider here. Okay, dot provider here is the provider, and value equal to stock. Okay, value equal to stock. I just pass this thing, and I want to close this component also. Okay, dot provider, I just close this thing. Okay, how I close this thing? This one, you see that slash stock context means this one the ending, and this is a closing tag. Okay, stock context dot provider. Okay, and I send the data. Now you see that I send the value here. You just see that this one the main most important thing. Here I send the value. Okay, value equal to stock. Okay, and I can pass a single parameter here. Okay, I can pass a single parameter. You just remember this thing. Here I have capable I can pass a single parameter. Okay, this one is the stock, and this stock. Okay, so now I can directly access inside the C, in the C component. Here directly I access this thing. So how I can directly access? Just remove it. Remove it. Command Z, just remove it. Here I create a consumer. There are some here, instead of writing provider, you can write consumer dot consumer. Okay, consumer, then yeah, first you write the consumer, then you write this thing. Okay, stock context dot consumer, and this consumer take a function. Okay, just remove this thing, and I explain you. Okay, so then you just import the stock context also. Okay, first you import this stock context, import stock context from app.jsx. Okay, then just do one thing. Here you create a inside the, you just see that this consumer means here I provide some data. Here I create a provider, and here I receive the data inside the component C. In the component C I receive the data, so that's why here I create a consumer. Now I want to consume. So what I want to consume? So stock context. Okay, so that's why I just import the stock context dot consumer. Okay, and this it take one function. Okay, which take one single parameter, means here multiple parameters are not allowed. Okay, So here I create a arrow function. I create a function. Okay, I create a function. Here create a arrow function. Okay, here what can I write here? Stock, sto stock. This is a parameter. This is a is here I create a arrow function. Okay, here I write component. This is a return component C. This one is the component C, and I directly get the output. Now just I successfully send the data from component from app component to component C directly. You see that the Tesla is added. Okay, use Tesla means stock. I can directly use the stock. Okay, and this is my stock parameter. Now here if I just pass in any another parameter, it's not possible. It's not possible if I just get if I just pass any another parameter, it's throwing an error. Okay, it's not possible. So what can I do here? Now just think that if I just write something like if I go to the app.jsx, and here I just pass some another data like user data, some user data. Okay, here I just go some little bit advanced, means I here I use some use state like if I just create a const here I just user context. I just create a user context. Okay, you see that this one not use context, it's a user context. It's a custom variable. Okay, so user context is there, and here inside the app.jsx, inside the app function, here I create a const user and set user. Okay, user set user. Okay, set user, and the default value is not a string, it's a object. I pass a object. Okay, so name Swaraj, age is 50. Okay, age anything. Okay, so this is my data, this is a user data. Okay, so how I receive the data, this is the another variable, means how I receive this data. Okay, so it's not possible. It's not possible because inside the here the consumer take only single variable. The consumer only receive the single, means the consumer just take a function, take a arrow function, and this arrow function take a single parameter. Okay, this arrow function take a single parameter. It's not possible. So for sending a new data, so what can I do? Just create a nested, means you create a, here you can't write another value like another value equal to something. So here we can do some nesting. Okay, nesting means inside the here just remove this comment out thing. Here I create a user context. Okay, user context dot provider. Now you see that user context dot provider and value equal to user. Okay, here I only pass the user. I can pass the set user also. Okay, I can pass both user and set user. Okay, now you see that here I use some destructuring. This is the value like user and set user. I don't want to set, but I just pass the user and set user. Okay, this is a function and this is the parameter. Okay, this is the object. Okay, and here now I just do one thing. I just to close this user context provider. Okay, and here I just put the component command X, just put this thing, just put inside this thing. Okay, now you see that there's some little bit nesting is there. Okay, there's some little bit nesting is there. This is my stock context at provider, and this inside the stock context, I have a user context, and inside the user context I have a component A. Okay, and here inside the value I use the user and set user. Okay, I pass user and set user. Okay, two parameter I pass, but here you can pass multiple thing. Okay, but in the consumer you only inside the consumer. Here consumer function means inside the consumer it take a function, and this function take a single parameter. Okay, so that's why I create a nested thing like that. Okay, so here this function take a single parameter. Okay, you can't pass another parameter. Okay, so here this function I just write some fancy way, like inside the return. Here just remove this thing, return. This is a function, return. This return take a like that. Okay, now you just see that the return like that. Okay, now it's visible. Okay, so now here I can create another nesting. Okay, inside the child component. So here you see that here user context is there, and user context you just successfully pass the export the user context also. So if you do not export, so how we can use the user context? So now you just see that tab user context. My VS Code is very intelligent, that's why I have many problem for typing. So that's why stock user context is there. Okay, so now go to the component C. Sorry, now go to the component C. Here what can I do? I create a nesting. Okay, I just remove this thing. Here I just write inside the return user context dot consumer. Now I am a consumer. Here I just consume something. Okay, now I am a consumer. Previously slash consumer. Okay, just close this thing. It suggests many things. Okay, so inside, okay, here I just create a I create a function. Okay, here I create a function. Now you see that here I create a function. Now I quickly create the function due to the VS Code intelligence. Now inside the return statement you just see that what can I do in the return statement? User context dot consumer. Here I write the user context because my provider is there. Means I already created the provider. That's why in the C component, in the child component, here I use consumer. Okay, user context dot consumer. Okay, so inside the user context dot consumer, this on the starting tag and this on the ending tag. Okay, and here it take a function. Okay, you understand it. It's take a function. So here it okay, I just pass the this is okay. Here I pass this thing user context. Okay, I just import the user context. Okay, now you see that user context is there. Okay, now you see that this one is the user context, and I get the data also. Okay, it's add some increment something. I don't want the bottom, I don't want this bottom. My age, you just see that I can access the age and name as well as the stock also. Stock equal to Tesla and the component, this one is the C component. I get all the information, but you just think that here I don't want the user, I don't want the set user, I only display the user. Okay, so that's why here I write user dot name. Okay, user dot name, user dot age. Okay, because this user is a object. Okay, inside the app.jsx, this one is a object and the default value is this object. Default value is Swaraj and name equal to Swaraj, name Swaraj and age 50, and that's why I use user dot name. Okay, user dot name and user dot age. Okay, that's why I use user dot name and dot age. Okay, go to the C. I think all the but you just think that if I just pass multiple thing, means if I just pass multiple parameter, means multiple parameter is inside the app.jsx. Here I create one value, in the second time I create another value. If you just think that if you have a big application, in that time you pass multiple thing, means multiple value from parent component to nth child component. So how it's possible? There's multiple multiple nesting is happen, so that's why your code is break and you can't understand anything. You just see that the complex level, it's very complex. So in the next class we discuss about the what the meaning of user context use context hook. Okay, there's some hook is there, use context hook who solve this type of problem. Okay, I think you understand this video. I think if you have any doubt, then you can ask me in the comment section. Okay, please subscribe my channel so I get some little bit motivation for creating this type of content. Okay.